Welcome to a new video on my channel. I'm Smitha Katti. I blog at smilingcolors.com. You can also find me as The Shiny Nest on Instagram. I've created a traveler's notebook style scrapbook for my recent Grand Canyon trip, and I'm excited for all of you to come along with me and take a look inside it. Today I'm going to be sharing a flip through of my new mini album. So over on my blog smilingcolors.com, I've written a blog post that goes along with this, which gives you 10 tips about documenting your memories and creating a traveler's notebook. Last week I happened to see a scrapbooking kit on Instagram that I really fell in love with by a company called Make a Pretty Life, and I really loved their kit. It was very appropriate for our trip this time. During our trip we took a lot of photographs, and you might have seen me share some of them on Instagram, and I was very motivated to come home and print photographs, and I wanted to document them somehow while the memories are still fresh in my mind. And something that I like to do for small trips like this is create a mini book. So a couple of things. I worked extra on the cover of this book because I knew that's what's going to stand out and that's what everybody's going to see. I used this huge paper clip to keep the book closed because the book is kind of thick now, and you can see that there are a lot of pages. And I like that this paper clip kind of keeps it all together. I will leave a list of all the supplies I've used in the description box below, so don't worry about that right now. We'll just take a look at the traveler's notebook. For the title Grand Canyon, I did some gold powder embossing. And how I did that was, on this paper die cut, I first used a pencil to sketch out Grand Canyon, and then I went over it with an embossing pen. This is a marker that has some sticky glue on it, and you can see it's kind of blue in color. So I went over my pencil line carefully with the marker, and the blue color of the marker helps you know how much you've covered. While the glue is still sticky, you kind of have to work fast here. I poured gold embossing powder all over the words, and then I dusted off the excess. And now to melt the embossing powder, I used a heat gun or an embossing gun, and then you just want to go over till all of the powder melts and becomes this liquid gold that's so beautiful. This is such a wow factor for this album. I just love gold embossing powder. So to assemble the cover, I just trimmed some scrapbooking paper, and using the Tombow Xtreme adhesive, I glued it into place. I glued everything else into place, and then I stamped the words "You Are Here." And I also added a pom-pom ribbon to the side of the book. I like the way it kind of adds this whimsical feeling to the book. And to do that, I just added a bead of glue to the outer edge of the inner side. You don't want to add too much glue because then it'll ooze out and make a mess. So add just a little bit of glue and then place the ribbon on top. Don't stretch the ribbon, let the ribbon fall into place naturally, and then let it dry overnight and it should be good. I placed a Ziploc bag between the cover and the front page just so that nothing would stick in place. Once it was completely dried, the next day I took a sharp pair of scissors and then I rounded the edges to match the cover, and there it is. When you open the book, the first thing you see is the stamp that says "Property of." This was a stamp that was included in the kit, and I just stamped it with some black Tombow dual brush pens, and then I wrote the words "The Katti Family" in. The next page is when the photos start. So all of the photographs have been printed at home. I like to proof my photographs in Photoshop, and then I print them onto 8.5 by 11-inch photo paper. The paper I'm using here is a Canon matte photo paper. This is a paper I've been using for years. I use it to print photographs, printables, anything. The paper is really bright and nice, and I love the photos that come out of it. I just print a different size of photographs. I don't print just one 4x6 size. I like to print 2 by 2 inches, 2.5 by 3 inches, and I have all odd sizes. I have like 5 by 8. I mix the sides of photographs and then I just trim them to size using my trimmer. The paper trimmer I'm using is by Fiskars, and I've used this one for years as well, and I'll leave a link to it down below. I just stamped some little details, I added some paper bit, and to do my journaling I'm using a black pen that is by Tombow. This is the mono drawing pen and in the 0.5 thickness. This pen is really nice for all kinds of journaling. And as you see, my scrapbooking style is pretty simple. I don't go over the top. I like to have photographs and I let the photographs tell the story. I adhere the photographs onto the paper with the Tombow Xtreme glue as well. And I like the Xtreme glue because it holds tight. The best part of this whole scrapbooking experience is playing with paper for me. I love all these little die cuts. I love how I get to glue them and make stories come to life on paper. The next page, there are more photographs, more little bits of paper and some journaling. And then the next page, go through all of the die cuts that came in the kit, pick one that goes appropriately with the page, glue it in and add some journaling. As you see, I like adding big photographs at times, and then I add smaller photographs just to tell the whole story. Next, this is about the road trip. I trimmed a paper tag here. I added a little bit of twine for some dimension and texture. This was one of my favorite photographs. I love the rocks and the people contrast. To do the Zion National Park on this side, I did some hand lettering again. I start by doing a pencil sketch first because I want to make sure that my words are in the center of the page. I like to use a 4H or a 6H pencil, and I make sure that the pencil isn't too sharp because I don't want it to leave indentations on the paper. Once I have my pencil lines in place and I like how it looks, I lightly erase the pencil so that it's faintly visible but not really loud, and then I go over that with my Tombow dual brush pen. The pen I use today is an N25. It's a dark black but not really darkest black, and I like the way it looks with everything else here. I added these stickers that say Utah. I used the sticker set that came with the pack. Then the next page, again more photographs. And then comes Page. We went to Page, Arizona as well, and another thing that I like to incorporate in my scrapbooks are maps. Maps are easily available everywhere. I think maps and typography are very trendy these days. I also leave a lot of place for me to journal. I have a lot of stories to tell, and I want this to be something that we can read 10 years later and remember fondly. And many places I leave blank space because I think that speaks nicely against a big photograph as well. This is a photo of the Antelope Canyon. We loved that place. It was just amazing. And again, I keep pamphlets, something that had information that we found very fascinating, especially my daughters. I trim it to size, add it into the book. A main thing for me while making scrapbooks at this point of my life is that I have my kids participate with me. What I did was I trimmed a regular 8.5 by 11 inch page that it fit inside my book. I told my daughter to write what you felt about the trip. So she made this entire thing by herself. She wrote all the pages, she wrote the title, and I like to see her perspective. And I know that 10 years later, she's not going to be writing like this. It's a nice way to preserve her handwriting as well. And then comes the star of our trip, the Grand Canyon. For the Grand Canyon here, again, I did some hand lettering, took my Tombow dual brush pen, and I did some brush lettering. Now, if you've not done brush lettering before, I have a couple of videos on my YouTube channel which explain what brush lettering is. The next page is actually a pocket map. And what I did was actually I cut off the X's first with a pair of scissors, and then I folded it and trimmed it so that I had a nice straight edge beneath. Then to adhere it into my scrapbook, I used the Tombow Xtreme adhesive again, and I applied adhesive onto one half of the map first. I placed the map into my book and I positioned it correctly, and then I just shut the book closed to make sure it stays in place. And I opened it to find that it was perfectly centered, and then I was able to turn it and add adhesive onto the other side. I love the way this opens. It shows all of the viewpoints. There were so many viewpoints on the south rim. I gave a nice check mark against all of the ones we saw. We saw many of them. We saw like 12 or 13 viewpoints. The next page, again, I start keeping things simple because the photographs of the Grand Canyon are really amazing. So I have large photos and I have a smaller photo and some journaling on the side. It's Some places I don't do journaling, I just add photographs because these photographs are my favorite. Then for this one here, I added the word sunset love because we took a lot of sunset photographs. To make sure that my words sunset and love were centered, I take my stickers and I actually arrange them to spell my word onto the edge of some kind of plastic packaging. And then I bring it to the paper, I make sure it's in the right position, and I press down firmly. I'm adhering the top 3/4 of it. Then you want to wiggle out the packaging from beneath and press down the other quarter left behind, and you have perfectly centered stickers. This comes especially handy when you have to center the second word, because I wanted to add the word love beneath it and adhere it into place. So I added some more photographs of all the sunsets we saw, and then added some journaling. More photographs, there are a lot of photographs in my scrapbook. More photographs, some more journaling. And again, these pages are by my kids. My little girl wrote, "It was cool. I felt happy and sad that I missed home," because she's a homebody. She loves home. My older daughter wrote a lot of more details because she's older, and she was very intrigued by all of the layers of the Grand Canyon, so I'm not surprised she wrote this. She did some lettering of her own, and she loved the Colorado River, so she would see the Colorado River every time. Every viewpoint, the first thing she would look for was the Colorado River. And then I have some more photographs of the sunset. This is of the sunrise actually. And then this was one of the brochures that had a lot of information that I really liked. So I decided I'm just going to trim it in and try to put it inside. And I wanted the typography Grand Canyon to be centered. Now we're almost near the end. This one's all about my husband, and he did a lot of photography this trip, and so I wanted to make a note about that. And the final one, I thought this little spread turned out really cute. It says, "I'll go anywhere with you." I used some pink shiny tape, and I love this guest check. This was also a part of the kit. And the final page, a thank you. There were a lot of planes, trains, and automobiles in this trip, and I wrote how old my kids were during this trip, and that brings us to the end of the scrapbook. As you can see, it doesn't stay closed very easily, which is why I like this huge paper jumbo clip. This book was also included in the kit, but I have found many books like this on Amazon, and I've actually bought a couple of them. I will leave links to those as well down in the description box. So thank you so much for spending some crafty time with me today, friends. I hope you enjoyed having a look inside of my Traveler's Notebook scrapbook. I definitely enjoyed sharing it with you. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, share it with friends, and leave me a comment below letting me know whether you like seeing flip-throughs of albums. And I will leave you here today with a couple of my previous videos that I think you'll enjoy. Happy crafting!